Money Club, baby.
Dirty, sexy, slinky thing. Power over all with the love you bring. Spinning from your mind control. Shuffling around this deep.
Back here. Alright, now we got everything set up. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode number 26 of J Money Talks Podcast. I'm your host, Big J Money, and boy, I'm just recording this podcast mere minutes after we now have our Super Bowl set now. And basically, how should we start off with probably the first game, which is the AFC Championship game. We have the Kansas City Chiefs playing host to the Cincinnati Bengals. The Chiefs pretty much came in, I believe, a 7-point favorite. The number 2 seed in the AFC West Division champs, taking on the Cincinnati Bengals, who pretty much so far has had practically a surprising season, and somehow we looked at them as the underdogs in this. And honestly, my opinion, I agree with a lot of people that pretty much were coming in like underdogs. But somehow the Bengals, I don't even know how to process. So I guess let me find my phone real quick. So give me a second. I need to grab a phone so I can process the scoreboard, so I don't have it in my mind. To be honest, I'm my brain is fried because of what I just witnessed. For real. My brain is fried. For real. Because of what happened. Because I never thought we would see this. So, here's how we start off this. So, how did we get to this? Well, let me see. Where's this shit? Alright. So how do we get started with this game? We had pretty much Patrick Mahomes to Tyreek Hill on a 10-yard pass, which kicked off the action with the Browns, with the Chiefs going up 7-0 over Bengals. But coming towards the end of the first quarter, Evan McPherson would kick a 32-yard field goal. He would kick 4 field goals in this game. 4 field goals in this game. So let's begin. So in the second quarter, it looks like the Chiefs started to run the score a bit. Started running the score. And it looks like this was the case here where Patrick Mahomes would find Travis Kelce for 5 yards after a pretty much fine way to escape from the Bengals defense. And Patrick Mahomes would find McCall Hardman for 3 yards. So we are pretty much going to have. So right now, with over 5 minutes left in the first half, the Chiefs are up 21-3. So this is a big thing. So Burrow would actually find Samaje Perine for a 41-yard pass to go into halftime 21-10. A big thing is actually this is going to be a big play. Actually, one big play in the game. One big play was probably made this the end of the half, as they would get the ball in the last minute and a half, the Chiefs would drive down the field thanks to a 33-yard pass from Mahomes to Tyreek Hill. 33 yards. Then on the 1st and 10 at Cincinnati 48. Now this was at Kansas City 19. Mahomes and Tyreek Hill would move to the Cincinnati 34 for 14 yards. 14 yards. And the big thing was in the last 2 plays of the game, Kansas City uses all their timeouts. Cincinnati only used 1 of their timeouts in this drive. Actually, 2 of their timeouts, 2 of their free timeouts in the first half. And this is the big thing, was Cincinnati would be down at the 1. The Chiefs would get down to the Bengals' 1-yard line. Thanks to pretty much Eli Apple getting a pass interference call, 14 yards, which would move him at the 1. So I believe this was spotted probably at the end zone, which I'm going to assume. We're not sure. So, and in both these games, Mahomes would get incomplete with 9 seconds left, and then in the last 5 seconds left, Patrick Mahomes would throw a pass, and he was to Tyreek Hill, and it went for no gain. And guess who actually made the play, surprisingly? Eli Apple. So this could have prevented the score from being 21, going to halftime from 21-10 to being 28-10. And so here's the thing. In the first half, it was like, so in the first half, I believe the Chiefs in the first half had like over 230 something yards total in the first half. And from and then from this point forward, this is when the Bengals would end up performing probably the comeback, as both teams exchanged punts for the first free drives. Then the Bengals would actually go down the field to kick a field goal to bring the game to 21-13. So Mahomes trying to actually move this game forward. He would end up try to throw to Demarcus Robinson, and it would get intercepted by B.J. Hill at a Kansas City 30, and he would go 30 yards. And so in problem territory, the Bengals would get the ball back, and in 5 plays, Joe Burrow would find Jamar Chase for a touchdown, and they also would go for 2, which tied the game at 21 apiece. So basically, this went from looks like a Kansas City Chiefs blowout to pretty much to now a tied game. Browns end up force the. I don't know why I said Browns. Bengals would end up forcing the Chiefs to punt next drive. And immediately after they get the ball back, Joe Burrow would throw a pass intended for Jamar Chase, and he gets intercepted by Ladarius Need at a Kansas City 47. But however, this is one of the big things, is the Chiefs end up going free and out on the next play. And the Bengals would start using, in that fourth quarter, would start chipping out the clock, an 11-play, 46-yard drive. On a 3rd and 6, Joe Burrow would scramble left and actually would get pushed out of bounds at the Cincinnati 31 for 7 yards on a 3rd and 6 at their own 24. And then this is one of the big plays that pretty much made a difference. On a 3rd and 7 at Cincinnati's 34, Joe Burrow would actually find a way to scramble up the middle to Cincinnati's 45 for 11 yards to keep the drive alive. Next play, Frank Clark on the Chiefs got called for offsides, which ended up moving him 5 more yards to midfield. And then Joe Burrow would throw a short pass to T. Higgins, and he would stumble into the Kansas City 34 for 16. Next 4 plays in this drive, it would be a false start, penalty, incomplete pass from Burrow to Higgins. Joe Burrow would find Jamar Chase for 5 yards, and Burrow would throw to Piran for no gain on the play, which would set up a 52-yard field goal by Evan McPherson, which gave the Bengals the lead. So we went from 21-3. Bengals were down 21-3 at one point in this game, early on in the game, to now taking the lead, scoring 18 straight points throughout the rest of this game. So the rest of the way we go back the rest of the way, and now it's Kansas City's turn to respond. It would be we would have the Bengals basically playing bend and don't break, because at a 31 at Kansas City 44, Mahomes would find Kelsey, short pass to Kelsey, runs into our 18 yards, and now Chiefs are in Bengals territory. We have a 2-minute warning. Also, during the drive, the Bengals did use a timeout. Prior to this game. Used a timeout in their last drive. So we ended up getting down from. So this went from. Then a second one at Cincinnati 29. Jared McKinnon would end up running for 14 yards, which set us up to the 2-minute warning. Next play, we would have. Next play, 3 plays later on a 3rd and 2 at Cincinnati 7. Mahomes will find Kelsey for 2 yards. Cincinnati takes their second timeout. And then next, 1st and goal from 5. McKinnon would run a yard for Cincinnati 4. Next play, Patrick Mahomes would be in shotgun, and somehow he drops back, and then somehow he drops like many yards back, like the Bengals push him back, and then Mahomes tries to run forward, try to at least gain some yards back, or at least get to the line of scrimmage. He gets stopped for 5 yards. He will be sacked at the Cincinnati 9. Next, 3rd and goal. Patrick Mahomes gets sacked again. And he fumbled, and it forced a fumble by Sam Hubbard, who also made the sack in the 2nd and goal play. So, luckily enough, Kansas City recovered it. If the Bengals had a chance of actually getting a chance to recover that ball, and would have sealed the game right then and there. So, because of that play, Kansas City had to take a second timeout. They go to a field goal. We get to a 44-yard field goal by Harrison Butker. The game ends up going to overtime. So we now have overtime for it. We have another overtime game. So we start off with overtime, and it appears like it's going to go via a coin flip. Basically, a coin flip. So, if anyone doesn't know how the overtime rules work in the NFL, postseason-wise, they have a 15-minute period. This goes, if you have the ball in the first possession, you can score a touchdown, and it ends the game right then and there. If your defense, the main goal is simply to stop the team enough to get a field goal, either create a turnover to where you get the ball back, and all you gotta do is kick a field goal, or basically force it like a 3 and out. Team punts, you drive down the field, score, and that's it. Another way is also you can cause a safety, and one more thing. Cause a safety, I believe, can also cause the game to end right then and there if you're the defense. and you actually create a safety on the defense. So defense. So we have of course Bengals have to make the call. They chose heads. It ends up being tails. Chiefs win the toss. They decide to receive the ball first, take the ball. And this is where, because in the last game between the Bills and Chiefs, the Chiefs end up winning the coin toss. They end up driving down the field to score a touchdown and win the game, which ended probably one of the best games of the year, probably one of the best playoff games of all time. And a kind of sour note because Josh Allen and the Bills didn't get a chance to get on the field. But that's the thing about overtime is if you want the ball back, you need to actually play. You gotta play offense or some defense. So gotta play defense. So that's the main thing about that. So let's move on to. So let's get into the drive. First drive. So Chiefs get the ball, start off. They start at their own 25. Patrick Mahomes would go for Demarcus Robinson. First pass goes incomplete. Second pass gets incomplete. Is incomplete. Would be incomplete. Go incomplete. Demarcus Robinson again. This time, first pass was incomplete. Short incomplete pass on the left side. Patrick Mahomes would throw it to Demarcus Robinson again for a short pass on the right side. Incomplete. 3rd and 10. Patrick Mahomes would go for sides to go with. Fuck it. Tyreek Hill's out there somewhere deep. And instead it gets batted up and it gets intercepted by Von Bell with the assist by Jesse Bates. At Cincinnati 40, he runs it for 5 yards to the Cincinnati 45. So if you're a Bengals fan, you pretty much just now realize all you gotta do is kick a field goal to win this thing. So, how does the Bengals respond to this? So, we start off with Joe Burrow threw into T. Higgins to the Kansas City 46 for 9 yards. Across midfield. Basically, all the Bengals gotta do is get in the field goal range. So, they're pretty much just playing it safe and playing it smart. Next, Joe Mixon would run for 4 yards, getting a first set of downs. Next, Joe Mixon would throw T. Higgins, would find T. Higgins to the Kansas City 32 for 8 yards. On the second 8. Another first set of downs. This time, they're in field goal range. Next, Joe Mixon would run up the middle to the Kansas City 25 for 7. Next, 2nd and 3. Joe Mixon would run for 13 yards to the Kansas City 12-yard line. 12-yard line. Kansas City would take a timeout. At their 12. Joe Mixon would run up the middle for 2 yards. And Joe Burrow would then stop at 13. So at the 13 on a 3rd and 11, they would send out Evan McPherson to kick a 31-yard field goal. Kicks it through the uprights. It's good. The Bengals, for the first time since 1988, is going to the Super Bowl. And understand what has happened. What has transpired this postseason so far. Understand 1988 is a whole lot different because the last time this team has had, prior to this year, they had 5 years. They've had 5 straight losing seasons. 5. The most that had a streak like that was the 1999 St. Louis Rams, who had 9 straight seasons of losing seasons before reaching the Super Bowl. So let's see how we got to this. What was 1988 was. At that time, the Bengals were the number 1 seed in the AFC. They ended up leading the league in points, total yards, and rushing yards. The league MVP was Boomer Esiason, which was their quarterback. He threw for 3,570 yards and 28 touchdowns. They ended up rolling through the playoffs to face the Niners in the Super Bowl. And this was Super Bowl 26. I think this is 23. Sorry, I'm looking at the first one. Is because they actually played 7 years prior to the Niners in Super Bowl 16, and this time so this is the same thing. So what happens now? What happened when this? What happened now at this time? The number one hit on the charts was Bobby McFerrin's "Don't Worry, Be Happy," which is the first a cappella song to reach that high. So, at the time was the LA Dodgers and the Oakland A's competing in the World Series that year in 1988. So, at that point, both Kevin Durant and Steph Curry were born in 1988. Okay, so we have Joe Burrow is now the first quarterback to be selected number one overall to reach conference championship in his first 2 seasons, and it's also going to be the first number one pick to actually lead his team to a Super Bowl in his second season. He joins Tom Brady as now the only QB to defeat Patrick Mahomes in the postseason. And he was not even alive when Cincinnati went to the Super Bowl. His dad, however, was 35 years old in 1988 and was in his second season as Iowa State's defensive coordinator. The only two that was born before 1988 that would barely remember the Bengals making the Super Bowl was only long snapper Clark Harris and punter Kevin Huber. Zach Taylor was like 32? No, wait. Zach Taylor was 32. So, actually, that's weird. Strange. So, let's see. Fun fact. This was actually the same thing where the Batman comic. In the Batman comic. And this is the one where pretty much was right when this was about this is the one where Jason Todd died, actually. This is at the time where they actually published, where the DC editors at DC Comics decided to create a 1-900 number where the fans called and cast their vote on if the Joker killed Robin or let him live. And this was the first and the last time the Bengals made it to the Super Bowl. There have been 5 different actors who have portrayed Batman. The next one's going to be Robert Pattinson, which is going to be released in March. Right now, so right now they have pretty much stopped many things in this game. Patrick Mahomes now has lost a game where he has led 15 or more points in this season. Let's see. What else? Because where else can we even? They tied an 18-point race in 18 points, which is actually tied an AFC title game record for the largest comeback. So that's one thing. Let's see. Because now you have multiple things that have happened. Because right now, so far this thing in this season has done they have now. Because what else can I put in there? Because what else is there big on this point? Because the biggest thing is right now. Because the most recent big injury that's bad about this is that Bengals tight end Tsukiyomi ended up twisting his left knee in the first quarter and he did not return. He came back in the second half using crutches in the second half. So the chances of him coming back for his game in 2 weeks might not be possible. So, but all I know is to me, I just pretty much I had to pretty much process immediately after the game, and pretty much process practically the past throughout the NFC title game, just going through Twitter, making some tweets, making posts and stuff, and I'm just I couldn't even process what just happened because I'm the Bengals. Because to me, you understand this. If you don't know, I'm a big Baltimore Ravens fan. I've been a Ravens fan for a long ass time. And I live in Louisville, Kentucky. Here in Louisville, Louisville is 100 miles from Cincy. It's an hour and a half drive I can pretty much get in a car, drive in an hour and a half, and to Cincy. And I pretty much have. Because I pretty much just don't. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying don't get me wrong. I did want to see the Bengals at least win. I was expecting the Bengals to win at least the Raiders game. And then whatever else happens is hey, you guys. Because me, I'm well, you guys finally got your win. So now you guys. Because I'll be honest, I respect the Bengals team. I have no issue with players and stuff and coaches. It's just to me, I just have the only thing I just hate is pretty much the fan base, because a whole bunch of y'all are dicks. There's a certain few who I have friends with, or I'm friends with. They cool. A lot of y'all can suck a dick because y'all motherfuckers take y'all shit so seriously. So I'm thinking and I'm guessing it's because you guys haven't won a playoff game in 30 plus years, and it just made y'all bitter as fuck for some reason. But now I'm okay, you guys finally got this win. Now can y'all chill the fuck out? Plus, please understand also, I have pretty much dealt with a bunch of Bengals fans throughout my time, because growing up, living in here, basically most of the teams we cheer for is either you're going to be a Bengals fan, a Colts fan, a Titans fan, and Steelers fan maybe, Cowboys fan, which is always a thing, and you pretty much don't have many teams. Before Lamar Jackson got drafted, it was probably me, my sister, and maybe a couple other Ravens fans in the city. So understand, we did not have much choice. We didn't have anyone supporting us. And I understand, because here's one of the things about it, I don't never go see a Ravens Bengals game in Cincy ever. And I'm saying this why, because I went there when I was 17 years old, and every Bengals fan wanted to get on my ass. And I'm bruh, this was actually, by the way, this was my first ever NFL game, period. So understand, I'm just going to this game, I'm 17 years old, trying to watch at least my favorite team play. And this is the closest I can get to, closest stadium I could go to, outside of Indianapolis. So, I understand, I'm from Louisville. We don't got a pro team. What do you, for real? and like every Bengals fan. And I'm like, grown man, grown women, I'm thinking children pretty much was ready to want to throw hands. And I'm like, look, I may not be from here, but damn it, you ain't gonna disrespect me. There were times I wanted to so much beat someone's ass. Like, some were disrespecting my older sister who was watching the game with me. They were like, literally, y'all were some assholes. For real, like, you guys were some legitimate assholes back in, and this was like 20. This is a year after we won the Super Bowl, so we went there the year after we won the Super Bowl. So it was like, and we weren't going to make it to playoffs, really, because I think we had to win that game and I think a couple other things. Or I think we were already eliminated. But still, you guys were dicks, and it was like the last week of the season. So, you could have just like, okay, you guys are going to the playoffs. We're already out, so, okay, it's the last week of the season, like, bruh, just chill out. Like, but, that's how I'm just like, to me, I'm like, as much I hate the fan base so goddamn much, the fact that you guys finally, because of all the futility you've had, pretty much the fact your owner is a cheap ass, the man, you pretty much have wanted to fire your head coach, like, last year maybe, and I'm on everything, like, y'all just somehow, some way, made it this far. I somehow believe we're in some Naruto Genjutsu. I feel like a Bengals fan somehow got into the NFL office and somehow put an infinite Tsukiyomi on the whole postseason, and somehow we're here. I don't know what it is. I still, hours later, can't process the fact that this team is actually in the Super Bowl. And our expectations for Ravens was to get into the Super Bowl. My thought process now is like tomorrow, like I think this week they're going to have press conferences with John Harbaugh, I believe, the GM, Eric DaCosta. I'm thinking they're going to talk with Mike McDonald, which is his introductory press conference, who is our new defensive coordinator. I'm hoping they have Roman speak, because we need to know, like, what you plan on doing next year, because, bruh, if you need to open up that playbook real quick and give us something, because if you just play like ass, because right now we need to prove, now we gotta prove ourselves now. We really gotta do better now, because at this point now, like, the Bengals now are practically going to the Super Bowl, and I'm just like, now if they win it, I'm like, yeah, we need to step our shit up, because now I'm like, I'm already know they're going to be tons of comments about, well, Joe Burrow's best quarterback in the AFC North, better than Lamar Jackson, and all this shit. And I'm like, and on top of all that, there's also like trade rumors. Ravens are going to trade him. I'm saying this right now. That better not happen. That better not fucking happen, because if that happens, I'm not settling for second place with be internally second place. I'm not internally going to be the bitch of the Yamcha of the damn division. I refuse. I deny. I decline. I'm out. I will retire as a Ravens fan. From that point forward, my affiliation will cease right then and there. Because that is inexcusable. I just don't even know what to process anymore. Alright, let's get into the next game. We have now the Rams taking on the 49ers in a rematch. 49ers have won have won like 6 straight recently. They swept both teams, both games. So let's get into this. Start off. So here we go. Guess we'll start off with the. Let's go into play-by-play. So first game starts off kind of slow. Both teams go 3 and out. First play was where LA actually in the next drive, LA would start driving down the field. With Matthew Stafford finding Cooper Kupp for 17 yards. 37 from the LA 36 to the San Francisco 47. 47 on 2nd and 8 at the San Francisco 45. Matthew Stafford would find Tyler Higbee, for former Western Kentucky grad, with a short pass to San Francisco 32-13. In very next play, Matthew Stafford would find Odell Beckham from the San Francisco 32 to the 22 for 10. Yen. Next, Cam Akers would run for 8 more yards to the 14 for 14 yards to the San Francisco 8-yard line. And from first and goal, Cam Akers would run up the middle for no gain. Next play, Matthew Stafford would find Tyler Higbee, who would be stopped at the 3-yard line for 5 yards. Third and goal from 3. Matthew Stafford would try to find Cooper Kupp in the middle, and it would be intercepted by Ward. I believe that's Jimmy Ward in the end zone, and he would run it back to the San Francisco 23 for 23 yards. All right, so we have that means the 49ers would get the ball back at their 23. 23, Jimmy G would find Brandon Ayuk for 12 yards from the San Francisco 23 to the 35. 35. Next play, 2 plays later, Jimmy Garoppolo would find Elijah Mitchell for a short pass to the and he runs to the LA 44 for an 18-yard gain from the 38 of San Francisco. Now, 3 plays later on 36 at the LA 40. Jimmy Garoppolo would throw incomplete pass to Brandon Ayuk, falls incomplete, and the 49ers would have to punt, and the Wishnowski would punt, and it would be down by San Francisco at the LA 3-yard line. Pretty much great special teams play that pretty much Pat McAfee would be blushing right now because of that. So moving on, we would have on 32 at the LA's 11-yard line. Matthew Stafford would throw to Van Jefferson. It would fall incomplete, but Laundry would fall on the field for defensive pass interference at the spot of the foul on Thomas, San Francisco, and so the Rams would get in life. I'm really sorry. I'm just tired. Okay, let me just speed run through this one. So in this drive, I'll just go for the big plays real quick. So Matthew Stafford, 3rd and 10 at the LA 43. Or in the second quarter, Matthew Stafford would actually scramble up the middle to the San Francisco 43 for 14 yards, get a first down. Now, 2nd and 10 from the San Francisco 43, Matthew Stafford would find Blanton to San Francisco 32 for 11 yards. Next, we move fast forward. 3rd and 6 at the San Francisco 28. Matthew Stafford would find Cooper Kupp for 15 yards to the San Francisco 13. 13. First and 10 from 13. Pittsburgh would get sacked by Nick Bosa, which would move him to the 17. So Michelle would run up the middle for a 1 yard gain at 2nd and 14. Then at 3rd and 13 at San Francisco 16, Matthew Stafford would find Cooper Kupp for the touchdown, 16-yard touchdown, and the Rams would go on the board first. Next, San Francisco would respond in a short fashion as Jimmy Garoppolo would pass short to Deebo Samuel for 2 yards. Jimmy Garoppolo would throw deep to Brandon Ayuk for a 31-yard gain from the San Francisco 27 to the LA 42. And 2 plays later on 2nd and 12 at the LA 44, Jimmy Garoppolo would get a pass from Jimmy Garoppolo, and he would stumble his way through into the end zone for a 44-yard touchdown, which would tie the game. Next play, we have the Rams' next drive. On 39 at LA 24, Matthew Stafford will find Odell Beckham from the 24 to the 37 for LA's 37 for 13 yards. And for 2 runs, that would give him 11 yards. Give him 11 yards to the 48. LA 48. Matthew Stafford would find Cooper Kupp on a 2nd 10 and on a 2nd 10 for 9 yards to San Francisco 43, 31. So Michelle would end up running for 5 yards to get the first down. Move chains. Next, 2nd and 10, Cam Akers would move up the middle for 2 yards. So now 3rd and 8, Matthew Stafford would try to find Odell Beckham deep and incomplete. And on 4th and 8, Matt Gay would kick a 54-yard field goal, and it is no good. It goes wide to the right. Alright, so LA with minute 50 seconds left would take this drive the next minute 50 seconds, and they would go drive down the field. Where he would... Okay, let me see here. Jimmy G would find George Kittle on a 3rd and 8 at San Francisco 46. Jimmy G would find George Kittle to the LA 43 for 11 yards. Next, on 2nd and 4, Jimmy G would find Brandon Ayuk from the LA 37 to the LA 24 for 13 yards. San Francisco would save her timeout, spike the ball. Then from the 2nd 10 at the LA 24, Jimmy G would scramble up the middle for 4 yards to the LA 20. San Francisco would call a timeout with 2 seconds left. Just send out Robbie Gould for the 38-yard field goal. It's good, and San Francisco would take the lead in the halftime 10-7. Next drives, San Francisco would punt from the 30, from a New York 40, from the LA 40. I'm so tired. Look. Let me just go to the scores here, just so because I'm too tired for this. So, after LA turns it over on downs, the 49ers end up going down the field, and Jimmy G would find George Kittle for a 16-yard touchdown. 16-yard touchdown with help from Jimmy G to Jennings to the LA 15 for 11 yards from LA 26 out on 3rd and 10. And Jimmy G finding Deebo Samuel to the LA 26 for 14 yards from the LA 40 on a 2nd and 11. And from a 3rd and 4 with Jimmy G passing to Brandon Ayuk to the LA 39 for 13 yards. By the way, I'm tired and I'm also hungry because I've been fasting for like 24 hours, so bear with me here. So, now Rams down 10. They need to find a way to get back in this game. So, LA would use his drive. It would also go down from use up to the last of the 3rd quarter. Now we're in the 4th quarter. Matthew Stafford to Cup on a 3rd and 1 at San Francisco for 11. Scores. Now it's 14-17 San Francisco. And it was all thanks from Matthew Stafford finding Blanton to the San Francisco 20 for a 20-yard gain on a 1st and 10 from San Francisco 40. Matthew Stafford finding Cup for 11 yards at the San Francisco 40 from the LA 49 on a 2nd and 8. And they pass from Stafford to Cooper Kupp at the LA 32 for 7 yards from the 25, and was thanks by a taunting penalty by Al Shahir for taunting, which I'm gonna be honest, in my personal opinion, taunting penalty is complete bullshit. NFL, remove his stain next year, please, and thank you. So now LA is showing life. Now it's a game. San Francisco would be forced to punt after 6 plays. San Francisco would drive down the field to kick a 40-yard field goal thanks to the efforts of Matthew Stafford pass to Cooper Kupp for 16 yards to San Francisco 25 from the San Francisco 41 on a 3rd and 10. Matthew Stafford finding a deep pass to Odell Beckham from the 15 on a 2nd and 10. LA 15 to the LA 44 for 29 yards. And also, thanks to a unnecessary roughness penalty on Ward, which was set up for the field goal. Now it's a tie game. Next drive, the 49ers would go 3 and out. San Francisco would then drive down the length of the field, 10 plays, 49 yards, just for Matt Gay to kick a game-winning field goal from 30 yards out at the San Francisco 12. San Francisco would save time on the clock by using 2 of their timeouts, getting it to the 30 with 1 minute and 49 seconds left. Thanks to the effort of Matthew Stafford finding Cooper Kupp for 25 yards. And Matthew Stafford finding Blanton for 8 yards on a 3rd and 1. Crucial 3rd and 1 and a 3rd and 3. First one was from the LA 42. From the LA 48 to the San Francisco 44. And from the San Francisco 37 to the San Francisco 12-yard line. So it's now Jimmy G's time to at least play a role and try to keep this game, bring this game, at least chance to win the game. Jimmy G would fall incomplete on the 1st and 10 at their 25. Second play, Jimmy Garoppolo would find Jennings, who gets stopped for a loss of 3. 3rd and 13 from the 22. Jimmy Garoppolo pass short for Hasty. It gets intercepted by Howard at San Francisco 14. He goes to the San Francisco 13, and that would be it. San Francisco used their last time out on the first kneel down. Stafford will kneel 2 more times, and that is it. Rams making their way into the Super Bowl. They finally slayed their dragon, which is the 49ers, and that means the Niners have blown a lead, ends a great national playoff run, and pretty much ends the era of Jimmy G and San Fran. Now next year will be the era of Trey Lance. Rams will move on to the Super Bowl. Not only go on to the Super Bowl, and now they also play host because the Super Bowl is also in LA in SoFi. So Bengals are going to be going up against the Rams in 2 weeks. And alright, we already got like a super early preview already. I guess through ESPN, so we're going to go through it real quick and just see what they got. If you bet on in the preseason odds, Bengals before the season started was 125 to 1 long shot. If you consider what they were at. In 2019, they were the worst team in the league with 2 games, which ended up helping them get Burrow, and they won 4 games last season. Basically, they have made the quickest turnaround from worst record to the Super Bowl in league history. Now this is the second straight team playing the Super Bowl in their home stadium. So let's see what the big thing is. Opening line is the Rams is a 3.5 point favorite. The over/under is at 50. According to the FBI, the Rams are the favorite. 6.4% of pretty much the FBI has them winning by 5.6 points. So what's the first look in the matchup? Let's see what's going on here. So let's see how this goes in this game. So we are now seeing what is going on here. Because let's see what's the biggest thing going on here. So let's see what's the big thing is. The chances of this team. So right now the big thing is going to be is if you have big matchups in this game, you got Mike Hilton going up against Cooper Kupp. The goal is trying to stop Cooper Kupp. If you're the Rams, if you're Bengals. Next thing is right now, if you're big thing is going to be also can the Bengals secondary actually stop? Is not just stop is not only stop the Rams offense. The big thing is can the Bengals actually stop the Rams defense front, especially Aaron Donald, who is in the interior. So that's going to be the big thing right now. So I don't know what's it going to be, but right now it looks like this is going to be a back and forth by many people. It's kind of 50-50 between Bengals and Rams on both teams. This is pretty much a big game. The Rams went all in this season to make it this far. Spent all that money. The biggest thing that's going to happen, the only way that this could happen is Sean McVay has had a haphazard use of timeouts, and also he can overthink his play calling. So the biggest enemy can be the coach. So that's going to be the big thing because he's made it this far before. We saw, and that was the Patriots and what they did with their defense and stopped him from doing any nullify that offense. So now that question is, what's going to happen now? Especially right now, Zach Taylor is a former LA Rams coach, so a former assistant under Sean McVay. So that's going to be a big thing. What does he know? What can he do to stop that offense? The big thing is right now, can the big thing is, can the Bengals stop the big thing is the Bengals stopping the can the Bengals stop the Rams offense? That's gonna be the big thing. Is right. Luckily enough, the Bengals made a major defensive adjustment earlier in the game against the Chiefs, because when they were behind 21-3, the big thing is they stopped Tyreek Hill and stopped any passes outside the numbers. Stopped passes outside the numbers. And those attempts in the first half, Patrick Mahomes was hitting all 11 of them for 127 yards and 3 touchdowns. Then at halftime, 7 out of 8 of those throws were all misses. But that's going to be the big thing, is can the Bengals take a deficit like that again? Because now this is the big game. The big game. So right now, this is the biggest thing. So that is, right now, it's like, this is a big game. The big thing is, I don't know, I'm not going to pick anyone now. What I'm going to be doing is like a Super Bowl preview. We're probably going to go through the whole I'm actually going to go through the whole postseason and go through every single big thing that happened this year so far. Because there's so much this postseason we're going to have to sift through and pretty much just, because basically this NFL postseason started off looking like a bit of like, we know who's going to make it in, already know it is make it in, and then basically it just somehow in the division round it decided to take every psychedelic chemical it knows how to make and just create insanity. So we'll go through a whole preview. This will be something that will be on the YouTube, and I think we're also going to put it on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well. So it's going to be full coverage of that. A full preview where I'm going to break it down. I'm actually going to get my good friend of mine who actually is a big Bengals fan, and probably have him on the podcast. See if I can convince him come over to the department. I don't know if one day. So at least speak to him about this and see what his thoughts are, because I already know he is. So I already know he's probably shrinking bottles of liquor and many packs of beer right now. So he's probably. So I might have to ask him like when he's like not as hungover. So give his thoughts on this whole season so far. Let him talk his shiz on here, and then yeah, we got a lot of things. So that's gonna be a big thing. So we're gonna go ahead and move on. Let's go into. I guess we go into some of the bigger stories, which is of the year. Which is, let me move on from these things. Let's go with the big one, which is one of the biggest ones. Guess we'll go with the Ravens thing, whole issue involving the Ravens, because that's actually the big. How big is this? Yeah, 32. Okay. Let's see. What was what I wanted to talk about? I guess the big thing, the story of the week was was probably the Ravens. I guess no, not the Ravens. I don't go too far about that yet. Let's go with men's basketball. U of L men's basketball right now. So, right now, Chris Mack, he is now out as the head coach he is now no longer the head coach of the University of Louisville. He is now no longer the head coach of the University of Louisville Cards men's basketball program after many disappointing performances in the past 4 weeks after coming back from his suspension of the first game of the season because of allegations of extortion. So it was Louisville Cardinals pretty much started realizing the writing on the wall and realized, yeah, this is not going to work with us. So, to Chris Mack, in the words of Vince McMahon, you're fired. In this case, they actually worked out a separation agreement, which is going to be over the course of like the next 3 years, I believe. He's getting $4.8 million, but it's like stretched out, and I think it's like for the month, it's like $188K a month. So, or I think it's like $133K a month. So going into the new coach. So the coach going into this for now in the interim is head coach Mike Puigs, who coached the U of L men's team earlier in the first 6 games of the season, where they actually ended up going, I believe, 6-0. Perfect 6-0, I believe. Where he actually ended up winning in the Bahamas. Jeez. In the Bahamas, I believe. In the Bahamas. Yes, being Severn. Actually, no, wait. They went 5-1 in their first 6 games, where they beat Severn, Navy, Detroit Mercy, Mississippi, and Maryland in the Thanksgiving tournament, the Bahamas Championship, winning those games, which was the first 6 games. Louisville would go 5-1 because they lost to Furman in overtime, 80-72. Then when Coach Mack came back, he came back when Louisville would go on to face off against Michigan State in the Big Ten ACC Challenge. Louisville will lose to Michigan State, beat NC State and Raleigh, host DePaul, former conference rival, back in the old Big East and Conference USA days. DePaul beats them 62-55 at home. Then they would beat Southeast Louisiana. Then Western Kentucky, they would travel to Western Kentucky, and it would lose to them and Bowling Green 82-72 before starting the year off playing against Wake Forest and winning that game 73-69. They would win their next game, start 2022 off, beating Georgia Tech 67-64. A close matchup, beating Pitt in a close matchup. Before they would lose to Florida State at Tallahassee 79-70. Lose again to NC State in Louisville 79-63. Lose in a rematch against Pitt 65-53 in Pitt. Beat UCLA. Not UCLA. I'm sorry. I'm fasting. It's been over 24 hours. I'm going for 36. I'm tired. I'm pretty much trying to go through this as quick as possible. So I apologize if I'm making mistakes, y'all. I'm just really tired. So, they would lose to, basically this would start a 6-game losing streak. Actually, now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-game losing streak. And the first 6 of them were all just disappointing because they would lose to Florida State in a close battle, 79-70. They would lose to NC State, where they pretty much beat them pretty well, and somehow they just got curb stomped by them at home. They would lose in a rematch to Pittsburgh in Pitt, 65-53. They would then gain a measure of getting something to actually beating Boston College 67-54 at home. Then it would drop a game, Saturday's game against Notre Dame, which was the retirement ceremony of Russ Smith, one of the all-time best Cardinals, and helped lead Louisville to that third national championship, which is complete bullshit that they vacated it, and also the Final Four. Hang the banners back up, NCAA. Hang the banners back up. Lose to them. Then lose to Virginia 2 nights later at Virginia. And this was a Virginia team that was losing, that has lost like multiple games throughout the season. They are not the same like Duke game. Same Virginia of old. Like they've lost. They ended up losing to Navy. Lose to Navy. Lose to Houston. Lose to Houston. Lose to Iowa in a close game. Lose to James Madison. Lose to Clemson. Then lose to North Carolina. Barely beat Virginia Tech. 54-52. Lost to Wake Forest. NC State. And Notre Dame. Like, they lost 8 games. Like, we should have won that game. So, from that point forward, it was pretty much like, at that point, it was like, the biggest issue was going on was pretty much the issue of communication with players and him and the players. And basically a lot of players, even like the captain of the team, Malik Williams, he was like a fifth year senior, or should I say like 6-year senior, because he has eligibility, was on a press conference, and me asked him like, is there any issues like you guys communicating with Coach Mack? And it's like, and he said like, I can't comment on that. Like, basically at that point in the season, like he lost the whole. He ended up losing the team basically at that point. So it was at this point like, no way we're going to try to at least get to the tournament at this point. A lot of us hopes of getting into the tournament at that point were kind of just like, we're done. Like, we're done. Louisville was starting to realize it. Basically, we're also at a point now where like we have an interim athletic director. We don't have a new president of the university yet. The university doesn't have a new president yet. So, basically they were like, okay, we gotta do something. Because, basically at that point, the whole city pretty much was like, because the thing with Coach Mack is like, the whole city was done. And understand, when you coach like ass, Louisville will roast the fuck out of you, because we roll with this city hard as shit. Like, we roll them hard as fuck. And all college, and that's the thing with all of us, because we are pretty much a college town, so to us, understand here, the U of L Athletics is pretty much our NBA, WNBA, NFL, MLB, because we actually have a good baseball program, our MLS team, technically, even though we have a pro team. Like, and also our NHL team, because we actually have a good hockey program, which ended up beating Kentucky, sweeping Kentucky in the season series, and more. So, it is literally like, for real, like, our volleyball program ended up being good. We ended up making it to the Final Four like, the Final Four. So, understand, like, this season, like, we pretty much take it seriously and literally, and we're, like, a popular, and, like, in terms of college sports viewership, we're, like, up the top 5 biggest markets for it. We watch college sports religiously. It's like our religion. So, understand, wearing a U of L, anything U of L related, is pretty much a badge of honor here. Okay? Actually, that's probably part of the dress code. Because if you're wearing some Kentucky gear, we kind of will roast you a bit. But some of us are like, why are you wearing that bullshit? I'm just playing. But we would kind of roast you. We will roast you. So, roast you though. But, so at this point, so the question is, what's going to happen now so what's now happening in the new era? The new, in the first game of the post-Chris Mack era, Louisville would host number 9 ranked Duke. Duke prior to the game as Coach Mike Krzyzewski of Duke would actually end up getting a couple gifts as the interim head coach Mike Puigs and the legendary Danny Crum, former head coach Danny Crum, presented Coach K with a blue and white Louisville Slugger baseball bat and Maker's Mark bourbon with Coach K's face etched on the bottle. Honor. So in the first game that happened, so the biggest thing that happened is this was also the first time in this game they actually played this game. And this team end up playing pretty well actually in this game because U of L would play, didn't lead this entire game, but they end up sparking a comeback to at one point actually end up tying them by actually tying them, end up tying at one point at I believe 60 apiece. And because of that performance, they actually because of the close performance, them not losing, it was good enough to at least earn a big cheer from probably the biggest crowd of the season, which was 18,493, which was better compared to last week where they ended up getting booed off the floor. So now, Tuesday night, Louisville is going to have another home game. They play against North Carolina on Tuesday night, which was actually a step above, better than what it was, because it was actually going to be tomorrow at 8 o'clock, and that's at 8 o'clock, and I believe that's on the ACC Network. Then from there, Louisville has to go on the road to take on Syracuse and Notre Dame. Notre Dame, before they head back home, then they will be back home to take on Miami, who is 16-5 right now. So, right now, the next 5 weeks are going to be interesting. One of the big things is, now the question is, did they just cancel I guess they just canceled. So what's going to be the big thing now because of what's going on? The big thing is now what's going on in the search of the U of L game with U of L, who is going to be the new head coach of University of Louisville candidates. According to a lot of things on the rumor mill, a big one would be Kenny Payne, who is a former U of L, who was a former U of L basketball player, and is also a former assistant at the University of Kentucky under coach John Calipari. He is currently assistant with the New York Knicks. So I think him being the coach would be a good fit. It's a good fit. But there has also been other candidates, according to ESPN, to the article here by Jeff Borzello, who is a staff writer for ESPN. And this is also an ESPN Plus article. So if you have ESPN Plus, you can read it. But if not, unfortunately for you, this is it's gone. So what's one of the big things about this whole thing? Why did we get to this point? So year one. So how did year one go? Understand. Last year, Louisville was 9-1 overall last year, and was 4-0 in the ACC. It was, U of L was pretty much went from an NCAA tournament 7 seed in year one to a second place ACC finish in year two, and in that relatively down ACC, the chances of winning a conference championship was going to happen. So what happened now because of that point last year to now? What happened is the Cardinals collapsed from that hot start. They ended up finishing 13-7 overall and would miss the NCAA tournament. Then Chris Mack was then get snared by an extortion attempt by former assistant coach Dino Gaudio, who Mack decided to fire last spring. Because of that whole situation, we actually mentioned this earlier in an earlier episode of the podcast. I don't remember which one it was. It was during the spring of 21, so I believe it would be... I'm a guess, because I might have to go back and look in what episode it was. I believe it was episode 18? 19? Somewhere around, I say it was episode 18 or 19, because I think at that point, that was when the news came out. So, because of that situation, because the university decided to suspend Mack for 6 games because of his handling of the matter. And because of that, it encouraged more interest by the NCAA because they decided to add 3 more allegations against the program. And they were already dealing with more stuff involving the Brian Bowen scandal. With Adidas and everything, which ended up costing both Tom Jurich his job as the athletic director, and Rick Pitino's job as head coach of U of L. So what happened is Louisville was doing well, 5-1, and when Mack returned from his 6-game session, Louisville went 6-8, and from past 5 of their last 6 games. Before the Duke game, they lost 5 of their past 6. The most notable one was against Virginia. And because of that, the environment, what was going on in Louisville, was pretty much ended up becoming a toxic environment for Louisville. Fans pretty much was booing the team and the coach. Drama was adding. Mack was mentioned multiple times in post-game news conferences that he was having trouble getting through to the players. And on Saturday, after he lost to Notre Dame, Lake Williams offered, "I don't have a comment," for when he was asked whether players were still responding to the coaching staff. And throughout the season, Mack and the interim athletic director at this moment, Josh Herod, who might be the next athletic director, because he handled this whole situation very professionally. They recently had multiple discussions throughout the season, and because of recently, both sides agreed that this environment, Coach Mack and Hurd, they both agreed it's time to leave. The environment's gotten too toxic. Okay, no Britney Spears. Okay, So now we're going into this new job now. So Louisville's not like a traditional blue blood, essentially, but it's a top 10 program because everything you want if you're a coach, you'll have plenty of resources. Because basically we will fund the fuck out. We boost the fuck out of the program. We buy Louisville merchandise and shiz. The history, recent history. We have top tier facilities in just the Center, which is one of the best college basketball arenas right now. Practice facilities, everything. Then an energetic and engaged fan base, which is true because we are practically a fan base that rolls with the cards deep. This whole city, well, not the whole city, but I say 95% rocks with the cards. So we've won 3 national championships, and it's free. I don't give a fuck if you think that 2013 title was vacated. And we've been to 10 Final Fours. 2012 and 2013 still counts. You can't erase the history, motherfuckers, okay? So, is there any drawbacks to it? Yes. Because there's no athletic director. We just have an interim athletic director. And we don't have an actual president yet for the university. So, the coach's boss is going to could change within weeks or within months. And then we're still dealing with the NCAA's bullshit with the Independent Accountability Resolution Process, the IARP, that is yet to rule on these rules violations that was going on since, I believe, was 2016, 2017. 2015, 2016. See, when Pitino was still here. From a recruiting perspective, it's not a big hotbed for ACC's quality talent. And the main guys in this state is, of course, UK. So, but is it a big, but from all the positive negatives, outside of Duke and North Carolina, this is the third best place to be in the ACC right now. It has the money, it's historically successful, and it has the facilities to be a national contender, a national championship contender. So, big one is Kenny Payne. Number one was pretty much, according to a large segment of Louisville U of L fans on Twitter, was Bruce Pearl, who's currently head coach of Auburn. Next, you got Mick Cronin, who is a former assistant from Cincinnati, under Rick Pitino. He's currently at UCLA right now. He just led the team to a Final Four. And that was before he signed a contract extension that he will stay there till 2027. But Mick Cronin was in Cincinnati, is from Cincinnati, and was the head coach of Cincinnati. The next one would be Chris Holtmann, who is the head coach of Ohio State. It's possible they could pay off that. The buyout now is not as bad because IU decided to reach out to him last March when their tenure with Archie Griffin pretty much didn't pan out. But the buyout at the time last year was 8 figures. So, but right now, Buckeyes are right now in the top 25, and they're going to have another big recruiting class next season. So that's one thing. Next pick is Nate Oates, who is the head coach of Alabama. Who led them to an SEC regular season title and a 2 seed in the NCAA tournament last year. And even though they've been inconsistent this season, they have already beaten Gonzaga and Houston so far. But there's the likelihood of the buyout after this season is actually nearly $12.6 million. Next one would possibly be Eric Musselman from Arkansas, who is another SC coach who actually signed a lucrative contract extension last year. And his buyout isn't as bad, but he has never been one to stay at one place for a very long time. So the chances of that happening is going to be kind of iffy. The next one would be this one's a good one. Who is Kevin Willard, who is a coach at Seton Hall. He's also a potential candidate for the University of Maryland. Same thing, and he also ticks the same boxes as Mick Cronin outside of regional ties. Kevin Willard actually played college basketball at Western Kentucky. He's also a long-time Pitino guy. He's actually spent several seasons at U of L as an assistant coach, and he's also achieved playing success at multiple schools. He so far has led the Pirates to 4 straight NCAA tournaments from 2016 to 2019, and he's won a share of the Big East title in 2020. So he actually has been linked to other jobs, but he hasn't pulled the trigger on leaving South Orange, New Jersey yet. So next would be possibly Dana Altman, who is a head coach of Oregon. He might not have the personality that Louisville is looking for in a post-Mack era. He's actually one of the best coaches in the country. He has been to 7 of the last 8 NCAA tournaments, including a Final Four in 2017 and 5 second weekend appearances. So, Sweet 16 Lead Eights. He's actually been proven he can recruit consistently. Speaking of which, that is the Nike's flagship school. So, for Nike. So, Altman could listen if Louisville's called. So, homie will go from Nike's, would be trying to pitch Nike's to Adidas, which is the official clothing sponsor of U of L, if you're wondering. No. From Providence, Ed Cooley. So it says here, he might not be the best fit geographically, because he spent most of his time exclusively in the Northeast and New England. Cooley has actually led Providence to in the top 25 this season. Over 16-2 start, he has appeared in 5 straight NCAA tournaments in between 2014 and 2018. There was a chance he could have been with the team in 2020 before the tournament got canceled because of, So, Cooley was last signed to a contract extension in 2019 when he was linked to Michigan, which then went to what's his name? Shit. I'm sorry. I know it's one of Fab Five, but I can't remember the name exactly. I apologize. Bear with me here. Basketball. Let me see the name of the coach. Jesus. Like, understand, I'm just tired. Juwan Howard. Jeez Christ, I'm sorry. I'm really trying to get through this jizz because of this stuff. Okay. Next is Mike Boynton from Oklahoma State. Because Boynton actually ended up boosting his stock because of last season's success because of him landing the number 1 recruit and eventual number 1 draft pick, Cade Cunningham, and winning him in the NCAA tournament. The Cowboys sadly aren't eligible for this year's tournament, but it just won at Baylor 2 weekends ago, who was the defending national champions. He actually also signed a contract extension last spring, and that buyout is more than $9 million. Next would be Brad Underwood, who was a head coach of Illinois. So, with Illinois, he has been a consistent winner of free schools. He actually went to the NCAA tournaments in free seasons at Stephen F. Austin, guiding Oklahoma State to the dance in his 1 year in Stillwater, and then leading Illinois to a 1 seed in last year's NCAA tournament before the second round upset. Fighting Illini is currently in the top 25, but Underwood did sign an extension in September, which will keep him there until 2027. Next would be Steve Forbes, who is the current head coach at Wake Forest. And he's actually done as good a job as anyone. He's actually helped lead the Demon Deacons to a 17-4 start after going just 6-16 in his first season as a coach. And Forbes has won everywhere he's been. He's actually won 130 games in 5 seasons at East Tennessee State before heading to Winston-Salem. He has excelled in quick turnarounds, and he has good success in the transfer portal. But he also has a history of being involved with the NCAA, as he actually has a 1-year show clause penalty for failing to cooperate with the NCAA investigation of Tennessee when Bruce Pearl was head coach in 2011. So, speaking of Kenny Payne, he actually could be the best coach. He actually played college ball for Louisville. He was picked in the first round of the 1989 NFL draft. He spent the past decade a couple hours away as an assistant coach of Kentucky. So he is an elite recruiter. He has been credited with the development of several of Wildcats' big men. So understand some of those big men in question. If you're thinking about it, it is Anthony Davis, Karl Anthony Towns, and a few more big guys. List can go on. The Knicks, he is now currently as an assistant with the Knicks, New York Knicks. He was briefly linked to the DePaul job last spring. Next would be Wes Unseld Jr., who is a long shot. He's actually the son of the legendary Hall of Famer Wes Unseld, who actually grew up in Louisville and played for the U of L Cardinals in the 1960s. And it's a wild card, but it's actually a wild shot. And he's actually the current head coach of the Washington Wizards. Next would be Wes Miller, who is currently head coach of the Cincinnati Bearcats, and he's so far has done 2 good things. And he has done a good job thus far. He's actually won two NCAA tournaments in his final 4 seasons at the University of North Carolina, Greensboro. His buyout before March the 31st is right now $3 million, $2.5 million after March 31st. And Miller is a former ECAC player. He played for the University of North Carolina. And this is the last one, and this would be an interesting thing. I don't know if he would do this. But this is someone who is very, very local. It's possible because he's not only born and raised here, he went to U of L. He spent a decade here in U of L as an assistant coach. He's also led my high school, Ballard, to a state championship as a coach. And that man's name is Scott Davenport, who is the current head coach of Bellarmine. He's been the head coach of Bellarmine since 2005. He's guided them from Division II to Division I, and he's also won a Division II national title in 2011. So the possibility of him going on to this is going to be interesting. So to me, I think Kenny Payne would be the big pick. The big pick here. There is a chance Mike Cronin could be in. I think Bruce Pearl couldn't, if it's a possibility, Bruce Pearl could be a good pick. It's a big pick. that would be a big poach, and pretty much that is a constant rival that I do not think like John Calipari wants, because somehow Kentucky fans, y'all really scared of his man because he practically just whooped your ass on on ESPN, like pretty much had a whole buffet of y'all. So I think that's probably so there's a chance, but however but one thing I do know is Rick Pitino actually offered up advice, and he actually said that that they should actually try to at least pick up Kenny Payne in a post game press conference. So yeah, he was asked about it. Yeah, it's actually said here. Actually says that Kenny Payne he hopes that Kenny Payne actually gets the Louisville job. He believes he's the coach for him. He actually makes an endorsement. He also says, I'm not sure about Louisville men's basketball program. He says, I'm not sure that the coach didn't want to leave. I'm not sure of that. But there are a lot of great people at Louisville. A lot of great people. And a lot of people I don't like. Most left the board, and I'm happy they left. So I'm thinking that he was paid because I'm certain he didn't want to leave, and George didn't want him to go at all. So it was like practically what happened was, I believe the board. What happened was at that time, the board pretty much gave him an ultimatum, like to George, is like, yo, you fire Pitino, or we firing you and firing Pitino both of y'all. And I think George told him no, and they said, all right, bet. You're fired. Pitino, you're fired. And I don't know if I don't think he has a resentment towards the university. I just think he's probably going to be, he's pretty much going to be underneath the bridge. So, I don't even know anymore if personally to me, I want to see if I don't know what to do anymore. I feel like it's going to be a big thing is right now, the Bengals have pretty much just, let me see what else is left. What else can we talk about right now? I'm just going through the Twitter, and everyone's just like going through it. It's pretty much still like talking about both games. Now OBJ is actually going to compete in his first Super Bowl. Now I just realized that too. I was like, let's see, what else is there? Big thing is everyone's saying is right now is going to be like, the big thing is, actually, I guess we'll talk about the Ravens, I guess, because the big thing is like one of the big things is right now the Ravens gotta make big picks. Is gonna make some big moves. And right now, right now, this offseason is a big one because of the fact that the Ravens Right now, now that the Bengals have won the AFC title, I'm like the Ravens have a big offseason ahead of them. This week they're actually gonna have they'll actually have the coaches have a press conference. Coaches will be having a press conference. I believe the um, I'm gonna say is jeez, I'm so tired. I'm sorry. Let me just take a sip of water here. Let's see. What was I trying to say? Big thing is the Ravens have to do is like I now have to recruit, get someone in secondary. I think Tyrann Mathieu is like for the Chiefs is going to be a move that the Ravens are going to try to get because I'm probably sure he's probably pissed off because he's like the only secondary player on the secondary that is good on that team. So I'm already seeing like the way they have been burnt on some plays. He's probably done. He probably is tired of Daniel Sorensen, who's kind of a sorry player. I say the Ravens got to build an offensive line. I guess improve the defensive line, get some youth in there. We need at least give more of our athletic, like offensive playmakers. And then the big thing is, of course, the extension. Would be the extension. So the big thing is now So now the big thing is right now, if you're the Ravens, what do you do in this situation? Is right now, all I know is like the Ravens got a long off season. I think at some point in the next couple weeks we're gonna I think they're gonna actually have um man, I can't think straight because I'm just so tired and I'm also hungry, so that's why. So I know this is long. Is on. Huh. I really cannot think straight. Oh. Think. No, let's just not talk about. Big thing was like, I guess we'll just move on because I'm too tired. I guess we'll talk about last night. This is still Sunday, so last night WWE had WrestleMania at the road when WrestleMania began for WWE, where they had the Royal Rumble last night, and we don't talk about wrestling much, but I ended up watching it. Let's go into. I guess we'll go into the event if we can. First match was Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns for the Universal title. Seth Rollins' biggest thing was Seth Rollins coming out to the Shield theme, wearing the Shield gear and everything, practically just trying to get into Roman's head before the match. The big thing was Seth has always been Roman Reigns 1-on-1. So this was the big thing about this match, and it starts off pretty good. Seth ends up hitting like a Shield powerbomb on the announce table. Roman starts coming back. They had multiple callbacks, like Shield, like callbacks to some previous matches. One of them was Seth countering Roman Reigns' spear into the pedigree, which was a callback to their match at Money in the Bank 2016. So, callback to that. Eventually Roman ends up getting Seth in the guillotine. He ends up choking him out. Referee raised the arm up and actually raised it up, and Seth would grab the rope, and Roman would not let go. Roman would then eventually get himself DQ'd after a 5 count. Gets DQ'd. Roman keeps the title. Seth wins, but Roman keeps the belt. After a match, Roman would eventually grab a chair and pretty much call back to how Seth portrayed the Shield. Roman hits Seth the same way, and just beats Seth over his back with the chair, breaks the chair, bends that chair up, and then just leaves with the belt. That's what happens. So then we go into the women's Royal Rumble, which we're gonna say is which had some good moments. I say kind of good moments. I don't want to say great, but kind of good moments. They had the big thing was, of course, let's see if we can find this. And it's all trending sort of thing. I basically want to go through this. Let me find it. Guess we'll do this. We'll just go to WWE here, and we can go through the entire list of the original to the old, who entered first and who ended first. We'll go through the whole thread of who the competitors were, because it was a whole lot easier because it was right. Where is it? Where are you? There it is. So let's go with the women's. So the first two entrants was Sasha Banks, who came out in a Sailor Moon inspired outfit. The next entrant would be Melina, who is a former women's champion and is currently signed to the NWA. So this is also not only a return, but also a little kick of the little opening of that forbidden door of in the world of pro wrestling. And right before that, and Malia would get eliminated within, like, I believe the first minute of the match beginning. Entry 3 would be Tamina. Entry number 4 would be Kelly Kelly, former Divas Champion Kelly Kelly. Next would be Aaliyah for number 5. Number 6 would be Liv Morgan. Number 7 would be Queen Zelina. Number 8 would be Bianca Belair. Number 9 would be Dana Brooke. Number 10 would be Michelle McCool, former Divas Champion, and the wife of The Undertaker. Coming out next would be Sonya Deville, who starts off being a commentator in commentary, wearing her jacket. Jacket at number 11. So number 12 would be Natalya. Number 13 would be Cameron, who was a Funkadactyl and a former tag team partner and friend of Naomi. When Sonya hears Naomi, pretty much somehow that caused a triggered her, and basically she decides to pretty much take off the jacket, ends up going in the ring. Rex Cameron ends up eliminating her, which then would bring out Naomi as the next entrant. Naomi will come out as the next entrant, and she gets her revenge. Puts all her focus on Sonya, who eventually gets eliminated by Naomi, but it's not over yet. So next we have Carmella coming in at number 15. Number 16 will be Rhea Ripley. Number 17 will be the SmackDown Women's Champion Charlotte Flair. Number 18, we will have a return of Ivory, who dresses up in a Right to Censor outfit. And I will say, Ivory is like 55, is like in her 50s. Like, she was wrestling, because the time her prime wrestling was like when I was like a baby. I was like a baby when she was like wrestling big time. So then we have the return of Bella Twins. We have Brie Bella in 19. Number 19. Next, number 20, we would have Hardcore Country as Mickie James will come in at number 20. Next, we have the return of Alicia Fox, which is actually a surprise return. Next, we would have Nikki ASH, Nikki Almost a Superhero, number 22. And both her and Ripley go at it because of their feud. Next, we would have Summer Rae coming in. Then we have a return of Nikki Bella. Nikki Bella. Number 25. And number 25, we would have a return of Sarah Logan, who has been gone for quite a while because of injuries. And also, she's married to one of the Viking Raiders. I don't know which one exactly. Which one of them she's married to. And I think she's been gone for a while. Next, we have a return of Lita. She ends up confronting Charlotte Flair. Somehow, I'm guessing they're going to have something between Lita and Charlotte at some point. I'm guessing that's the case. And next, we have a return of Mighty Molly. Entry to make a return is Mighty Molly, also known as Molly Holly. For those who don't know, she ends up getting beaten up by Nikki ASH. And then immediately Nikki Cross basically just tosses it out because it's like, I'm the new superhero gimmick character, not you. Eats her out immediately. Next, we then get the big return, which is Ronda Rousey coming back. And this would be the big shock for everyone. I will say when she came in, let me just say this. WWE makes these stupid mistakes. Why do you zoom in when they're throwing punches in a corner? stop. And they're not even that good. And they are, like, literally, like, me and, like, a friend of my a high school friend of my sister, and my sister were all watching it, and we were just all looking at these punches, and we're just like, bruh, these punches are ass. Like, Ronda, like, pretty much my band was roasting of, like, all the legends, because there was, like, so many entries, like, so many, like, legends were in this thing, because if you don't know, WB released, like, half the women, the women they had in NXT and in WWE, so in the main roster, so a lot of legends came back. Number 29 would be Shotzi, and then number 30 would be Shayna Baszler. So Baszler, it would go down to the final two would be Charlotte Flair and Ronda Rousey. Ronda eliminates Charlotte at last. She ends up winning the Royal Rumble. I'm fine with Ronda Rousey coming back. That's fine. But there was, like, so many, like, I mean, I can understand Melina coming back is fine. I would have been fine with Melina, Mickie James coming back. But we look at all the ones that are pretty much shouldn't have, honestly, didn't really need to come back as much. Did we really need a 50-year-old Ivory coming in? I don't know. Because I'm like, there's some that kind of could have just not shown up. Like, I would have been fine with Ivory not going. Ivory. Mighty Molly, I'm guessing, as something. The only thing was, like, there was, like, 4 other women they could have added, they could have replaced, swapped out. Among them was Asuka. Where was Asuka? Bailey, who just got cleared to compete. Lacey Evans, who I think is now cleared to compete. Has been cleared to compete. And Alexa Bliss. And she's been in some promos. Why not bring her back? I don't know. But we're going to continue on. Next, we got, let's see, what was the next match? Which was pretty much Brock Lesnar versus Bobby Lashley for the WWE title. World title. This match ends up is kind of a short one, but we all knew this was like big, meaty men bumping meat, so pretty much we have moments where pretty much both of them suplex each other. And there's surprised that both of them can suplex each other, and it was like interesting. There was moments where Brock Lesnar got speared a couple times by Lashley. Lashley would go try to spear him out on the outside and ends up crashing into Timekeeper's area. There is a point like Timekeeper's area. You're fighting on the outside a bit. They're also fighting on the outside ring. Lashley puts Brock in hurt lock. Gets him in a hurt lock. He ends up eventually breaking out. Ends up having one ref bump. Then Brock sets up for an F5. Hits it. And knocks out the ref. And this is where you kind of know this is going to get some predictability here. Set up some predictability and I guess set up the big feud for WrestleMania main event. Clearly in the main event. Roman Reigns comes in. He ends up spearing Brock. He retrieves the title from Paul, who reluctantly gives it to him. He clocks Brock with the title belt. He leaves. Paul Heyman leaves with him. And a second ref comes in. Lashley covers, wins. He becomes the WWE World Champion. Roman leaves with Paul Heyman, who reluctantly basically turns. Basically regains Paul Heyman's manager. So we get to the main event, which is the Royal Rumble match. Which is the Royal Rumble between, we start off with AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura. Perfect match. Honestly, would have liked both of them be the Iron Man, having me within the final four, just to add like some on the final four. So that was a big one. Number 3 would be Austin Theory. Number 4 would be Robert Roode. Number 5 would be Rich Holland. One of the things that they made a mistake on was they eliminated Shinsuke Nakamura like really early. Like I think after Robert Roode got in. Number 5 would be Rich Holland. Number 6 would be Montez Ford. Number 7 would be Damian Priest. Number 8 would be Sami Zayn. Entry number 9 would be Johnny Knoxville. Basically, he ended up being in a Royal Rumble. Getting a Royal Rumble pretty much a ploy just to get the numbers for get people to watch. It was basically an ad for the Jackass movie, the new Jackass movie that's coming out February 4th. So February 4th, he ends up getting beaten up by a bunch of wrestlers. He eventually gets knocked out by Sami Zayn because they had a feud going on. They had their feud. I think Sami Zayn eventually gets eliminated really early. Because they think he gloats a bit. Number 10, Angelo Dawkins comes in. And then number 11 comes in Omos. He starts eliminating like a few people. A couple people. Next is number 12, Ricochet. Which I wish they actually did stuff with him. Next we got number 13, Chad Gable. Number 14 we would have Dominic Mysterio, the younger Mysterio. Then we have number 15 in Happy Corbin. And this is where some of the eliminations he does pretty much wanted me hate. I hate Happy Corbin. I know his job is to make me hate him, but I just detest him so goddamn much. I mean, he does scare well, because it makes me want to fucking rip. If I actually see him in the streets, I would swing on his tall ass. I don't give a fuck he's 7 feet tall, and I don't give a fuck he played in the NFL, or what's it called, or I would try to fuck your shit up, motherfucker. He pisses me off that much. Just that's how much he pisses me off. He's doing his job. Okay. Dolph Ziggler comes in at number 16. Number 17 comes in Sheamus. Number 18 comes in Rick Boogs. Then we have number 19, Madcap Moss. This is where they start eliminating some great wrestlers. I think they eliminated Dominic Mysterio. That's what it is. They eliminated my boy Ricochet. I want him. They eliminated Ricochet. Eliminated both, I believe, Street Profits. Street Profits. I think Austin Fury got eliminated. They actually eliminated I think they eliminated AJ Styles. Number 20 comes out. It's Riddle. Riddle comes out at number 20. And then I'm just like, please have Drew McIntyre just come out and just, because they were just starting to eliminate people, and I'm just like, please, for all is holy, have Drew McIntyre come out, beat both asses, eliminate them, and just beat their asses more for pretty much wasting my damn time. And number 21 comes out, it was Drew McIntyre. I actually called it, and I was just watching this, and I was like, yes! I was like, fuck they shit up, beat they ass. Just feel every piece of my rage, feel every piece of my pride, because he pretty much eliminated both of them. He goes through the ropes, not over the top rope. Smart. He then grabs the stairs and beats them the fuck with it. Just beats their asses with it. I enjoyed every piece of that. Enjoyed every piece. Number 22, we have Kevin Owens comes in. Basically, both him and Drew decided to start fighting on the outside just for, I don't know why. They just said, you always want to just punch, start swinging. And they're like, alright, bet. And then next, we have Rey Mysterio coming in, number 23. Number 24, we would have Kofi Kingston come in. There was going to be a spot where I think Kevin Owens pushed him off, and Kofi was trying to catch himself onto the ring barricade, but he ends up his feet end up touching the floor before he could complete the Spider-Man stunt. So they kind of like eliminated him, I guess, shoot-wise, because I think the plan was for Kofi to do a spot where he ends up catching himself on a barricade like Spider-Man. He ends up climbing onto the barricade, climbs up top. I think would then either leaps from, I guess he was going to leap from the barricade back onto the ring ropes and fight his way back in. Or he goes towards the steps, he leaps onto the steps, climbs back on, and climbs back in from there. That was probably what it was a spot planned. It didn't go the way they planned it. He ends up getting eliminated. So, number 25 would be Otis of Alpha Academy. Number 26 would be Big E, which I thought would be which I thought they would actually at least, if anything, they would at least gave Big E the Rumble win. So that would set up, I guess, Bobby Lashley versus Big E for the title at WrestleMania from there, which actually would have made a whole lot of sense. Number 27. Then we get to the last few picks, and this is where it gets wild, because number 27, we would have the rapper Bad Bunny come in. Now, WrestleMania last year, his appearance last year at WrestleMania last year, he did a good job. He had a great performance with The Miz and John Morrison as he teamed up with Damian Priest. Dude is a good-ass destroyer. He's a great destroyer. Then at number 28, we have Shane McMahon versus Kevin Owens. And both of them, and Shane McMahon comes out at number 28. And Kevin Owens is like, I fired you 3 years ago. You shouldn't have shown your ass up here. Basically, they fight, and basically Kevin Owens tried to throw him out, but Shane ends up turning the tables and eliminates him, which is unfortunate. Then, number 29, it is the hometown hero, pretty much the hometown guy, Randy Orton. He comes out, huge ovation. I'm like, okay, it's either you can give Big E a shot, or you can give Randy Orton the chance to tie the all-time record of free Roman wins with Stone Cold Steve Austin. He's been in this company he's coming up on his 20th year with the company. Surely you will at least give him that, right? So far, everything comes out. Then we go to number 30. And then, as Taz would say, well, here comes the Bane, because Brock Lesnar comes out and basically just wrecks whoever was left at that point. Bad Bunny was among the final few entrants. He ended up eliminating Sheamus and helped eliminated Dolph Ziggler because of Bad Bunny assisted Rey Mysterio in hitting a 619. So pretty much Shane somehow was among the last few entrants. Big E got eliminated. Randy Orton got eliminated. Bad Bunny. Shane. The last two was at least Dolph Ziggler. Drew McIntyre and Brock. Rematch from WrestleMania. Pretty much them coming back at it. Drew eliminated Brock at the 2020 Royal Rumble, which set up Drew winning the title from Brock. World title from Brock. WrestleMania. So both of them are going at it. And eventually Brock ends up eliminating McIntyre at the end. And Brock Lesnar goes to WrestleMania. Goes on to win the Royal Rumble. His second Royal Rumble. His second one. He won the Royal Rumble in 2003. Which set up him winning against Kurt Angle at WrestleMania 19. And I'm like, the thing about Brock is okay, they kind of shouldn't have used the Royal Rumble win for him. They could have actually set it up for him to win it at the Elimination Chamber, which actually would have been much better. Because if you think about it, that would have made more sense, because Brock basically wrecking everybody in the chamber, and he's pretty much so supremely pissed off at Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman. Have him, you can probably have both Usos in that chamber, that number one contender chamber. chamber. Have a couple other wrestlers in there. I mean, Seth could be in there. Cesaro. Ricochet has a chance. Sheamus. Just have... And also Drew. Well, actually, if Drew won the Rumble, actually, that would have been... If Drew won it, it would have been... That would have been the case. But you could have actually used that chamber, have Brock destroy everyone in that chamber in a rage. Brock wins that match, sets up the match with him and Roman. And then there we go. We would have been all good from there. But instead you wasted a Rumble win for Brock. Why? So now we wait till February 19th, where the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view is going to be in Saudi Arabia, apparently, which is again, they're pretty much WB is getting blood money, but that's just me. I'm not going to get into it. But yeah, WB, y'all are dumb. Like, why would you do that? Like, why? So, I say, now I did forget that there was a Raw women's title match between Becky Lynch and Doudrop, but let's be honest, we already knew, like, Becky was going to win. We just didn't give a fuck about that match. By the way, change Doudrop's name to Piper Niven again, because the name is ridiculous and it's stupid. Use your common sense. Anyway, this is just gum. I think that's going to be it. So we're going to end the podcast right there. Sorry that this took a while. And sorry it was less coordinated. I'm just tired as fuck. And the fasting period is like kicking my ass. So won't be eating anything until 10 a.m. So yeah, thank you guys very much for watching. Now you're gonna hear me chewing gum, which I honestly don't give a fuck anymore at this point. What is life at this point? Anyways, we're going to go ahead and close this out. Thank you guys very much for watching this episode of the J Money Talks podcast. Be sure to follow this podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit the like. Click the notification bell. All that good stuff. Follow my social medias. And, yeah, we'll be seeing you guys next week. So, take care, y'all. Peace.